So social media is something that plays a large part in your work or your learners' worlds, and that's something we need to embrace. Not only because we want to model how civil discourse should be done, not only face to face with individuals, but also in that virtual space, but because this is a high interest area for your learners. They're going to have their TikToks and their Snapchats and Instagram and whatever else, WhatsApp, et cetera, et cetera. So if we can emulate those things, those are going to be ways that are easy wins for you to knock things out with, and your discussions are built to you know generally work the same way. All right. And so if we're going to kind of play around with that concept, um, social media, right? So Twitter and your Instagram and all that wonderful stuff. So even if you're not somebody who is a social media maven, getting yourself somewhat familiar with kind of how those things are done, hashtags as organizing principles, threaded discussions, things like that. Your learners will appreciate that. So fundamentally, again, using hashtags, using discussions that are threaded, things like that. And what I mean by threaded discussions, so I'm gonna hit that edit button. All right, and you're gonna notice that I have some really interesting things here, and these are things that you're gonna kind of have to be mindful of. Allow threaded replies. That would allow students to essentially create their own lanes of discussion inside this main discussion group. So I can respond back to people, and my responding back to people doesn't distract from the greater conversation that somebody else is having. Really great if you're to have group conversations. You're going to do your ask me anything things. You might have things to conversations diverge rather into other things. In addition, it's great to have a space where students have an opportunity to express themselves authentically. And so that threaded replies is definitely something I would suggest you have on. Users must post before seeing replies. There are benefits to utilizing that. I always I really want everyone to contribute here because it's not a scenario in which people have to orally be able to communicate. And I know that a lot of people are super introverted. I'm an introvert myself. But being able to add a piece of artwork or video or something like that, I think should be an expectation of all learners because of the fact that as we move forward in time, being able to do that is going to be super important. So if you click that button, they're going to have to post before they can see anything that anybody else is posting. Enabling the podcast feed is going to give you the ability to subscribe to this particular discussion and all the things that are happening. And I want to see what the learners are doing as well. Graded, I generally don't grade them except when it's bell work. And bell work, I just want to make sure that you are here during the day. Excuse me. With that graded, I don't grade it as points. I grade it as complete or incomplete. And when I was using discussions, and I use discussions daily as the bell work. Hey, you need to be able to tell us about X, Y, and Z. And I would see, essentially, again, this would be my attendance report for the day. Who was there, what time they posted, et cetera, et cetera. I was the naughty teacher who always forgot to take attendance. This was a way to kind of keep a fail safe in place so that if I didn't remember that the kid in the back, especially with masks on, right? Like eyeballing students and trying to remember, who's wearing what mask today, et cetera, et cetera. This is a way to keep that kind of straight. Allow liking. I have a love-hate relationship with this concept. I generally do not push allow liking. I don't actually use allow liking because it becomes this, I don't want it to become a race to have who has the most likes. But if you're going to emulate social media, I could see perhaps you turning that on. I still wouldn't, but you can allow liking of different posts as well. You can also make things group discussions, and Canvas does a really good job of setting up, say this is, January 26th, 27th. All right, cool. A lot of students have signed up themselves. All right, cool. When I do this, generally, the same section means the same class. Sometimes that's cool because if it's an immediate ask, Really, really cool. Sometimes it's more fun to have all the students contribute, but you can't have just the students be in the same section. You can say, hey, I want 5 groups, and I want 4 members or 5 members of each of the groups. Great, and I want to set a random student as group leader so that everyone gets an equal opportunity to be group leader, and I can save that button there too as well. All right, cool. So I can do that. So those are all things you can deal with. In addition, the peer reviews, especially when you're doing like a product-based discussion, you can have you can ask Canvas to say, I want you to automatically sign peer reviews for students. I want every piece of artwork or post or whatever to have 2 individuals look at it, and you can say there's a certain date that I want those things to happen by, and it'll automatically assign people according to your class, which is really cool. All right, so now I'm gonna get rid of all these because I don't want these when I save them, and I'm just gonna hit the save button. All right, super dope. All right, so social media. Hashtagging, the threaded replies, all that wonderful stuff. How do I build these things? And that is more of a stylistic question, in my opinion, than anything else. As I showed you before, and I'm going to bring this up really quickly again. Canva and Adobe Creative Cloud Express are probably the easiest ways to do this if you wanted to kind of emulate a certain style, and it's just the easiest thing to do because they already have templates set up for you, especially if you're somebody who's not going to utilize these things very much. But you can go and just search the different things. So say I want all the kids to do an Instagram, right? Right. Instagram, these are all templates for Instagram, and posts, stories, their Facebook, all that stuff is there. So I just want to see the posts, and you're going to be looking at the squares. So hey, these are all Instagram posts that are already set up for me. All right. Wonderful. If I wanted to say I'm a kid that doesn't want to use a pre-created one, custom size, if you go to social profile, you'll see all of the different socials there. Social posts, all the different socials there. So that you can emulate in size and behavior, etc. All of the social medias social media outlets without having to necessarily be so super familiar with them. Same thing with Canva. So if I do Instagram, all right, cool. All these Instagram templates I can just rock and roll with and just do what I need to do with. There's tons of stuff. I mean, Crello is perhaps my favorite. It's Vista Create now, but it used to be Crello. And it gives you the same kind of functionality. I'm going to log in here really quickly. It's probably my favorite of all of them, just because it's kind of a dark horse in a lot of ways. So again, all these are already built. All right, so those will all be really great ways. Pixlr has them as well. Most of your photography and your graphic art, graphic design apps are going to have templates already for these types of things, so you don't have to overthink it at all. And your students are going to be familiar in this area, and this is one of the places to make sure that you kind of facilitate and allow them to take charge of how things work. Having that conversation beforehand about who uses what and what do things look like. What do you use Instagram for versus TikTok or et cetera, et cetera. They will go and they will generate that knowledge for you if you do not have it. And just giving them a space in order to present their findings is important. But like, just an example, hashtag for Math Masters, throw your work there. Google Drawings is another place. I believe I use that as the tools to consider. So when I didn't do this through the videos, but tools to consider, you'll have the links there inside of the deals as well. So all the tools that I've gone over, the links will be there, and you kind of rock and roll yourself.